When you think of Homer's The Odyssey, you picture a grand fantasy filled with giant monsters, island witches, and Greek gods guiding Odysseus home from the Trojan War. But Christopher Nolan is about to shatter how you look at this ancient myth forever. Early details from his upcoming $250 million epic reveal a deeply unsettling shift. Nolan has completely banned the supernatural, eliminating Zeus, Athena, and all magical beasts in order to transform the journey into a brutal psychological horror story shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film. While the internet is already furious over stripping away the magic, this realistic approach actually exposes a terrifying historical truth, because in the ancient world, soldiers didn't have a clinical word for post-traumatic stress disorder and instead called it the madness of the battlefield. Odysseus spent 10 brutal years committing atrocities outside the burning walls of Troy, leaving his mind completely broken, which leads historians to argue that the obstacles he faces on his way home are actually internal demons rather than external beasts. In Nolan's cinematic vision, the one-eyed Cyclops is not a mythical giant, but a metaphor for a lawless, cannibalistic tribe encountered by starving, traumatized soldiers, while the Sirens represent the auditory hallucinations of men losing their sanity to dehydration, isolation, and immense guilt at sea. This grounds the ultimate test of survival in the philosophy of the Roman Stoic Seneca, who wrote that a man is as wretched as he has convinced himself he is, highlighting that Odysseus' true battle was always against the creeping rot of despair and the temptation to turn into a beast himself just to survive, by forcing us to look at the screen and ask what is left of a man's soul when you strip away his home, status, and friends. Nolan directly interrogates human nature to see if a person can ever truly return home after witnessing the absolute worst of humanity. This leaves us with a massive debate to drop in the comments below. Is the Odyssey better told as a fantasy with gods and monsters, or as a gritty psychological truth about a soldier's mind breaking down? Subscribe to Echoes of Wisdom for more deep dives into the hidden philosophy of history.
But while we are looking deep into the fractured mind of Odysseus, the rest of the internet is completely losing its sanity over a culture war. YouTube channels and social media mobs are flooded with lazy, outraged rants and AI-generated mockery targeting the casting choices, specifically obsessing over rumors of Elliot Page portraying a supposedly skinny Achilles and Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy. This loud, superficial outrage is the exact moment where the internet exposes its own historical ignorance, because the ancient Greeks never viewed their mythological heroes through the narrow, rigid lens of modern identity politics or Hollywood body-type standards. In ancient Greek literature, the gods and heroes were shapeshifters, fluid entities whose physical forms mattered far less than the universal human truths they represented. Furthermore, ancient texts explicitly describe Achilles not as a hulking, muscular brute, but as an extraordinarily beautiful, almost delicate youth who famously hid disguised as a girl at the court of Lycomedes before the war even began. Nolan is not trying to trigger an internet culture war. He is a master director deliberately breaking away from tired, cliched Hollywood traditions of muscle-bound gladiators and generic British accents to give us a raw, universal human spectacle. While ragebait channels scream that diversity is ruining the film, they are entirely blind to the secret right in front of them. Nolan is casting performers for their ability to project profound, haunting internal trauma rather than superficial historical accuracy. By looking past the surface-level noise, we can see that this isn't a film meant to satisfy internet trolls, but a deeply psychological masterpiece that uses its cast to reflect the broken, universal fragments of a soldier's shattered soul. This leaves us with a real question to debate below. Are these online critics genuinely upset about historical accuracy, or are they just missing the deeper,
This direct comparison to Hollywood's past exposes the absolute irony of the current internet outrage. The furious mobs making fun of the casting are completely blindsided by history, pointing to the 2004 movie Troy and worshiping Brad Pitt's muscular, golden-haired depiction of Achilles as the gold standard of accuracy. Yet if these critics had actually read the source material or studied history, they would realize that Troy itself was heavily criticized for being historically inaccurate, turning a profound, fate-driven mythological epic into a generic, sanitized Hollywood action movie. Yes, Homer's texts do describe Helen as fair-haired and white-armed, but the internet's obsession with skin tone completely misses the artistic point of a myth. Christopher Nolan isn't trying to cast a historical documentary. He is selecting world-class performers like Lupita Nyong'o to embody the metaphor of Helen, a woman whose overwhelming presence and aura could fracture empires and haunt a soldier's broken mind. When the internet praises Brad Pitt but rages at Nolan's casting, they prove they don't actually care about ancient Greek history. They just want a comfortable, idealized Hollywood aesthetic. Nolan is subverting that exact expectation by moving away from muscle-bound gladiators to show us that the true weight of the Odyssey isn't found in a perfect body type or a specific hair color, but in the devastating internal scars of human trauma.